Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are moving on with episode 3 of season 7, which is called Hungry. Now, I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm always interested about the episodes that come after the kind of big mythology parts. You know, we started the
Yeah.
season, we've came at the end of a 3-part episode where there has been some severe ramifications for some of the characters. And I was wondering how that mental toll and the hangover from these life-altering events was going to show itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like we've had some good examples of that in the past, where we come off the back of Scully's abduction and whatnot, and they come back into it, and Scully's kind of wrestling with various fears about having her autonomy taken away from her. We saw that in Irresistible to great effect in my mind, but not so much in your mind. We saw Scully going through like her cancer scare, and then in the mythology stuff, and then taking that into the standalone episodes like Never Again, where I think it was Never Again. I think it was called Never Again, where she's kind of dating, and she's like it's all this, she's wrestling with this sense of mortality and the urge to bear children and things like that, borne out by the fact that she's just been on death's door. So this time around we're coming off the back of Mulder having been thrust into this world of essentially being a psychic, and like being in people's heads like for this stretch of time, and going through all this torturous stuff with Cancer Man. Maybe not as torturous as it was for us, the audience, but so how's that going to impact the show that comes immediately after that? And we will get into that very shortly.
Absolutely.
But my question to you, sir, is where do you think this episode ranks in the IMDb ranking of all 217 episodes?
I'm going to guess middle of the road ish. I would, but then the last couple of episodes have been kind of tedious as well. So maybe it's just like this feels like an average episode that's almost lifted up by the previous poor episodes. So I think I'm going to be generous and say 87.
87. Oh, that is generous. It's 103.
103. So yeah, like
103,
kind of middle.
yes. Yeah. And I can tell you, because something slightly new, just to add to the dynamic of our show, which I thought I'd do. When I was finding the scores, those IMDb scores, I thought, you know what I'll do? I'm going to put the episodes of this season in ranking order according to IMDb, so I can tell you where this episode is ranked.
Can I guess?
You can do. Go on.
Yeah. I'm sorry for the folks out there. I love a guessing game. So there's how many episodes in the season, Brian?
So there's 22 episodes in season 7. Based on the overall rankings for those 217 episodes, I've ranked season 7 in order. Where do you think Hungry sits in season 7's ranking order?
12.
It is 9.
9. Oh,
yes.
Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
Well, that's the key, isn't it? That's the key. If that's a close indicator as to the quality of the season, that this one ranks at 9. This one cracks the top 10 of the season. Does that bode well for the season, or does it not? I will ask you that question again by the time we've finished this particular episode. But yeah, 9.
Okay.
So let's get into it. We open up at a fast food joint. It's a guy kind of coming in through the drive-through, and he's basically the most obnoxious customer ever. And he gets eaten by a drive-through window.
Yeah, can we just say, like, this guy's literally asking for extra spit on whatever he's ordering.
Yes. Yeah.
Who talks to service people like that unless you're wanting something awful done to your food? So
yeah, this guy is like right off the bat, you know, he's getting taken out by our villain of the week or our monster of the week, if indeed he is even a villain, and that's a question that I'm sure will be raised at some point during this episode. But yeah, basically he comes to the window drive-through after really antagonizing the person that works there and forcing him to make his burger, and basically something jumps out at him and kills him, eats him, basically. As far as setups go,
do you know what it is? It's comforting. It's a comforting opening because I felt
fast
like
food.
This is the fast food episode of the X-Files. You just feel like it's you know everything that's going to come, and it just after the last 2 episodes, I'm like, I'm ready for this. I'm 100%. Give me X-Files average. I'm good. That's going to be a 5-star meal for me after the previous 2 episodes.
Yeah. It's perfect programming, I would say. Counter programming.
Yeah. Because by this point, we're all hungry for every episode.
After the opening credits, we cut to a nerd who shows up for work. And I know him as Bug Boy from the first season of Smallville. Second episode, first season of Smallville. So this actor, clearly around this time in his career. So this was like a couple of years before. It
must have been
it's about a year before, wasn't it? Because we came off the back. Season 6 was off the back of the movie, which was in '98. So this is like 2000 now. So yeah, literally a year later, he would go on to play Bug Boy in Smallville. So literally, like, these two roles kind of work in tandem with each other, I would say. But yeah, he shows up for work. He's all like self-help kind of stuff about him. He's listening to self-help tapes in his car, I think, and telling himself all the things he's heard on his Dr. Phil cassettes or whatever.
His little affirmations.
Yeah. He goes into work, and Mulder and Scully rock up and ask everyone to step outside for a chat. They found a button on a dead guy that's only worn on Fridays at this fast food place. And only one dude doesn't have the badge on him at that time on account of it not being Fridays, which, is actually
a valid reason.
It's a valid reason, perfectly valid reason. So, yeah, there you go. Mulder, obviously reeling from the events of the last 3 episodes, rocks up and seemingely is completely unaffected.
Exactly. Yep.
It's just business as usual.
Nothing. Yeah. This is an episode where they completely, like, there is no hangover whatsoever from the events.
Yeah.
But in the same, like, I was thinking about this, and in season 6, because obviously we didn't have the X-Files together at the start of season 6, and it took 10 episodes to get there, and I was like, please get them back to normal quicker. And it feels like this time around they've just like, stop, let's start again.
It's like the opposite, isn't it? It's the opposite of season 6. It's like, no, we're going to get them back together straight away and just cut out the middleman. Cut out any dealing or processing of what's just happened and just cut to the chase. People want to see Mulder and Scully work in X-Files. They're going to see Mulder and Scully working in X-File. Boom. Yeah. Again, we got this guy that, the one who hasn't brought his badge, who has the real douchebag aura about him.
Derwood Spinks.
Derwood Spinks, yeah.
Like, just his name, his look, everything about him just screams red herring. Like, he's a bad guy, but he's not the bad guy. Like,
Yeah. And we're going to get some serious Columbo work from Mulder throughout this episode because, like, literally right off the bat, he knows who his man is. He's like, half the time I just expect him to say, oh, one more thing. So the badge dude goes to get some cigarettes. The manager goes to call head office, and Bug Boy listens in on Mulder and Scully through the drive-through tannoy thing, Mulder thinks that something organic, like a tongue, cracked a hole in the victim's skull. And something, and then they find something, brain matter, which, you know, does it turn out to be ground beef, or there's a joke made about it being ground beef?
It turns out to be ground beef.
But
it's in the bright sunshine. Everything's colourful and carefree, and it's like, you know, this is an episode that is going to impact nothing at all.
I think this'll, a couple of episodes from now, I remember this happening as well. Probably more so than this episode, but I feel like Mulder and Scully in these episodes are kind of starting to take a back seat, where it's the monster of the week, so to speak, is becoming the central figure in the episode.
Well, I felt like that was a definite choice in this episode, making him the almost protagonist, because you don't see Mulder and Scully alone. You only ever see them when they're interacting with him.
Yeah, it's definitely really, from his perspective.
Yeah, and I kind of like that as well, because we still get the fun Mulder and Scully isms throughout it, but you get to spend time with the bad guy and get to understand him a little bit more, because he's not an out and out bad guy. There's an obvious compulsion there, and questions, which I kind of like that aspect. Now, if this happened with every monster of the week, it's overload, but once I can handle.
Yeah, it would get repetitive. Like I say, there's an episode, couple of episodes from now, where I'm thinking off memory. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking they kind of try and do the same thing, only whereas Mulder, particularly Mulder here, still remains an active participant. Like, when he does show up, he's doing something that's getting him closer to the truth. I feel like the one that we get a couple of episodes from now, Mulder and Scully both become a bit more passive. Like, you could take them out of the episode and it kind of wouldn't matter. The things that unfold would unfold that way, irrespective of whether Mulder and Scully were there or not. So in that sense, it demystifies the importance of our central characters on this show. Whereas here, even though Mulder and Scully aren't essentially the central figure that we focus on and whose perspective we're looking through, they still remain active participants in what's going on.
Yeah.
So Rob Roberts, which is Bug Boy, comes home and tries cleaning some bloody clothes. He decides to...
Hang on, Brian. At what point are you just burning them? Like, those things look wrecked. There's not even like a slight stain on it. They are pink now.
Yeah.
You're never fixing that.
No. So he does the next best thing, which is to bin bag it up and take it out when Mulder calls to question him. He was working the night of the murder, so Mulder doesn't see the bin bag bleeding all over the floor, but he does have a good idea of who it is. This is like... Mulder's been so observant in the past about little tiny details that nobody else sees, but he doesn't see this big ass bin bag lying on the floor bleeding out. It's like, come on, Mulder, do better.
Do better.
So Rob throws the bag into a garbage truck, licks his fingers, which I just find disgusting. Like, it's like the Tombs episode, you know, when he's picking up all the trash. He picks up the dead rat, bin bags it up, puts it in the trash, and then he's... Something about that just turns my stomach. So he licks his fingers, then he sees Mulder in a car. Oh no, hang on. It's Mulder's double.
It's a doppelganger.
Yeah, I gotta say, for a moment there, I was like, oh, is that Mulder? But yeah, they found a really good double there.
100%.
For Mulder.
Yeah.
So Rob gets a phone call from the mental health specialist that works for the company that he works for. Then he goes and pulls his teeth out, gets rumbles in his tummy. Then he goes outside and kills fake Mulder. Has another bite to eat.
Great. It's just like I feel as if there's not a great deal to talk about here. Obviously, the manipulation of the teeth coming out is an interesting aspect, and it leads into like more interesting aspects later on. But I think we'll get to them when those parts come off.
Yeah, like we never. I don't really feel like we get any true explanation as to what's going on with this kid. Like, why is he pulling? Why does he need to pull his teeth out? Why do his ears come off and then back on again? It's like,
yeah. See, what we're missing is a conversation between Mulder and Scully, where Mulder is like, it's an Aztec snake god of hunger or something from the 12th century BC that
who has to disguise himself as human in order to walk among us and all that kind of crap. Yeah, but Durwood, our friend Mr. Durwood, Spinks, lets himself into Rob's apartment and blackmails him. Basically, he knows that he was on that Friday night. He's got his. Does he have his badge or something? Oh, he's got something with blood on.
It's the medication.
Oh, the medication with the bloody thumbprint on it. So then Sylvia, a nice woman from next door, one of Rob's neighbours, knocks on to ask if he saw fake Mulder, because she saw him too, and he was there all day yesterday, and now he's gone. And she has good reason, as we will learn later on. Because I was watching that and I was like, why would you ask? Like if I saw someone sat out in the car on the street, I'd probably think, what's that guy doing there? Why is he there? But I wouldn't necessarily go to my neighbours and ask about it.
I just saw her as a nosy busybody. Do you know that kind of? It's always watching and always noting. Although, but again, it gets a great reason later on as to why she's so attentive to this person.
So on his way to work, I put a question mark there. Is he on his way to work? Rob, I'm not entirely sure where he's going, but Rob's driving, and he runs into Mulder, who advises he stay away from Durwood, who's prime suspect, but not for Mulder. He's the prime suspect for everyone else investigating it, but Mulder's all like, I don't think so, to be honest. Kind of doing that thing like he did with the Bruce Campbell character last season, when he's kind of hinting that, I know it's you.
It's antagonising the person into making that mistake where they can just catch him. Just niggling every now and again.
Yeah, definitely. So Mulder asks about the padlock on the meat waste dumpster and asks who has a key. Obviously, Rob is one of those people, but obviously several people as well in the establishment of which he works. So we cut to a therapy session. So that's basically where Rob was on his way to, is a therapy session with the woman who phoned, the one who's like, obviously, like when there's been a death closely associated to the workplace, if you're doing your due diligence as a company, you give everyone the therapy, force them to go there and talk about their feelings, which no one really wants to do. So
there's something about the psychologist, and it was just leading me into, and it's not so much this sequence, but a sequence later on in the house where I was thinking,
I was waiting, and I've seen this episode before, so I knew where it goes, and yet I was thinking, hang on, is she one? Is it like, and again, that's another throwback to the Bruce Campbell episode, because all the way through that, you think he's manipulating this woman to get a child, when in actual fact, she's manipulating him to get a child. So I thought this was going to be like a little play on that, where she's actually the same kind of thing as he is. So she feels like an affinity with him and recognizes it in him straight away. But no, apparently not. So they do this therapy session, and it's all like questions of what makes people do evil things. Are they monsters, or do monsters really exist? And is it just people being bad? And Mulder calls to invade the patient privilege confidentiality thing, to which the therapist's like, no. And then that's when Rob leaves. Much to her annoyance. But yeah, so Burger Brains.
It's good. It's cool. It's just a fun sequence.
Burger Brains. Yeah. It's just like cooking his burgers, and he looks down and then just sees brains. All like his dream burgers, basically.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Durwood wants his last paycheck. He's been fired because wrongful dismissal. Really?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I mean, I would imagine so. I don't know what the laws are like.
He is a douchebag, but what is it essentially that he's been fired for?
I think did he hide his criminal past? Didn't declare it? Is that
right?
What it is?
Okay, maybe.
And he's a douche.
Yeah, I know he's prime suspect, and that seems to be the primary instigator as to why he's now getting fired. But yeah. Anyway, he wants his last paycheck, and he says, as before he leaves, he's like, "I used to dip my boys in the coleslaw."
So pointless.
What a degenerate. Dip my boys.
But he eats the coleslaw as well. Oh, God, so good.
Oh, man. Funny because it's true. Durwood returns home to find Rob having gone through his apartment. He realizes that Rob might still be there and tries to root him out. But when he does, he regrets it because Rob has gone beast mode and kills him.
Yep. No ears, no hair, no teeth. Or not his fake teeth, anyway. Yeah. Such a weird look.
Yeah, it's one of the things about the episode I'm not that keen on, if I'm being perfectly honest. There's a few, like, for example, we didn't really touch on it, but when he kills fake Mulder and he goes into the car, and you can tell it's this like CGI effect, and I don't entirely get what there is CGI. Because it is essentially just a guy coming through a window.
Yeah.
So why you couldn't have just put makeup on and then literally have him come through the window? But there's definitely something off about the way that shot looks that suggests there is CGI involved. And it's to its detriment, I would say. It doesn't look good special effects wise.
Yep.
Now, there are some practical special effects throughout the episode that later on are actually pretty good, pretty nice. But just sometimes when it comes to the jump scary type stuff, there's just something a bit off about it. So you're not.
It doesn't feel like a jump scare kind of episode. Do you know?
No. So. Yeah. So those bits they're not really that scary. So Rob goes back to the therapist. She gets him to look in a mirror to try and see the good inside himself. And it feels like this proper hokey kind of like, oh dear Lord. Like,
Psychology 101.
Yeah, roll your eyes kind of business. She then gives him details for a self-help group for eating disorders. And he leaves after his ear falls off. And
that's funny though. It's just another way to show that he's really just not listening to her.
Yeah. He's falling apart quite literally, and he's not listening to her. So yeah, but that, I mean, that's a nice effect. I like that. Just anything like that's practical, that's physical. It always works. Good. Yeah, always works so much better than the CGI stuff. Rob returns home, and the neighbour, Sylvia, tells him that the FBI are here. And before he has much time to react to that, she says that they basically want to know about fake Mulder. And then Mulder and Scully basically corner him, one from above, one from below, and they want to speak to him. So we cut then to his apartment, where they question him about Durwood's whereabouts. Then Mulder tells him his theory, implying heavily that he thinks Rob is the monster they're looking for. Rob says, "Good cop, insane cop." And then
I like that.
Yeah. It's quite nice. But I feel like if not already, we kind of start to get a bit closer to Rob in this scene, in the sense that, now that you know that they're definitely onto him, there's this game of cat and mouse where often in this kind of situation, the tension comes in, like, even though you know that someone's a bad guy, you're on the edge of your seat because you're like, well, are they going to get? How are they going to get away? How are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Even though you don't condone anything they do, whereas, and you don't sympathise or empathise with them in any way. Whereas here, I think that they've started to kind of build a pretty decent foundation as to why you might empathise with this guy. Clearly what he goes through and what he does is out of his control. He has a hunger that, can only be sated one particular way.
Yeah.
Just so happens that way is killing people. But so Rob goes to the Overeaters Anonymous, where he meets Sylvia. Sylvia's there. Hello, Sylvia.
What a sequence. It's so good, Brian. It is so good.
Go on, tell us why it's so good.
I mean, he's there in amongst a group of bigger people, and he looks perfectly average.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that there are some looks of like, oh, we're not really buying this. But once he goes up to that podium and starts talking about hunger and the taste and how good it is,
juicy.
Yeah, and everybody is literally foaming at the mouth, like they're in line for a buffet. It's deliciously funny for me, just to like that. They're kind of sympathizing in a way, but more than that, they kind of wish they were eating. They're just like,
There's literally one guy who's like, the tongue comes out. He's like, it's overplayed, like it's ridiculous, but it knows it's ridiculous, and it's trying to do that. It's trying to be funny and stupid. Like the thing is, this is one of those episodes, and I think the thing that makes it more on the average side rather than the spectacular side is that it doesn't quite lean in hard enough to either being a full-on comedy episode or a full-on straight-up serious Monster of the Week episode.
Yeah,
like. And this one is written by Vince Gilligan, so he knows how to do the comedy stuff, and certainly some of that is here. Whereas, like, I think Darren Morgan with this concept would have gone full on comedy. Like, you would know this is a comedy; there'd be no doubt about it. Whereas here, it kind of straddles that line where I think it's been a comedy for the most part. Much of it, I'm just like, not entirely sure some of the time. So he goes to Eaters Anonymous, introduces himself, talks about the craving in a way that seems to get the group excited, and then visualizes the brain inside someone's head before calming down.
Yes, this throbbing brain, isn't it? That was good.
So it's like this scene, it's clearly comedy.
Oh, like, yes. Yeah.
So it's like if the rest of the episode played the way this scene plays, I think it would definitely be more in the sphere of like classic kind of X-Files. But
I think so.
Yeah. So Rob and Sylvia return home, besties. They're kind of talking to each other now, like they're going to be meeting each week, and it's actually quite nice. It's like you sense there's a relationship there, that there's some kinship, that Rob's finally got someone that he can open up to and stuff. So he does the only natural thing that anybody would, which is he decides he's going to eat her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bin day. Rob smashes the hell out of his apartment with Durwood's baseball bat.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, okay. What's he up to then? Rob tells Mulder and Scully, so he's called them back. They come. He's like, tells them a story about how Durwood killed the guy at the burger joint and threatened him to keep quiet.
Yeah.
Then Mulder shows him a picture of the fake Mulder, who, as it happens, was a private eye hired by Sylvia's ex-husband, and he has gone missing. So, so that's why he was sat outside the house all day, and that's why Sylvia was probably wanting to know about it, because she may have suspected that he was someone hired by her ex-husband.
Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff is implied, but for anyone who's seen anything about, you know, private eyes and people who've had affairs and split up and this that, and the other, the inference is quite natural to make. I think like, just by these few little details, you can imagine what kind of man her ex-husband is. The fact that they are separated and he's still got a private eye kind of following her. So but it gives Mulder and Scully that link to lead them back to Rob, basically. So the therapist comes to see Rob as he packs. He says he's tired of pretending to be something that he's not. She asks him if he killed that man, and he shows her his true face. And much to his surprise, she pities him. So he's expecting her to freak out and like be all fearful. But as it turns out, she's all understanding and psychotherapeutic, and
which makes you think, is she one?
Yeah, that's
exactly
what
I was waiting her to kind of almost comfort him and be like, oh, I found another one of us, but it never comes.
Yeah. So, well, I wonder if they were conscious of that, aware of that, and maybe toyed with the idea of doing that and decided, actually, no, let's make that a red herring and keep it a more just like focused more on the central plight of Rob and where he's at. Mulder and Scully arrive and he charges at them and gets shot because he'd rather die than not be himself. Which is, you know, slight air of tragedy about the episode. But there you go.
Yeah. Wrap up time, Brian. Will I go first?
Go on.
I needed Hungry, I think, after the previous two episodes. I needed something light and forgettable that didn't tie into the grander mythology, that wasn't a big arcing story, that was simply a disposable episode. I do kind of like the fact that Mulder and Scully aren't the main focus, and I think that works well within the context of the episode, because we have a villain who we can sympathise with somewhat, trying to deal with certain issues that are going on. I think the humour, when it's there, works really well. And for me, it's probably a standard 3 out of 5 episode. But it's getting a half-star boost because I think I needed this. So 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I was, even before you started speaking, I thought to myself, 3.5 out of 5. Like I say, I think the thing that stops it being a 4 is just that it straddles the line too much. Either be full-on scary, serious episode, or be an out-and-out comedy. And I think it doesn't quite know which one it wants to be. But it's still very enjoyable. It still moves along at a nice pace. And I enjoy following these characters that, you know, that we're only going to get to follow in this particular episode. Mulder and Scully unburdened by the baggage of the previous 3 episodes. In many ways, it's kind of helpful that they just decide to ignore it and get back to business. But yeah, it's your standard X-Files. You know, you could show anyone who's never seen the X-Files, you could show them this episode, and they'd get a pretty good idea as to what this show is about. And they wouldn't need to have seen anything really that comes before it in order to get the gist. So it's solid stuff.
Yeah. And I am, can I just say, I'm very excited about next week's episode, because we are doing episode 4, which is Millennium.
Yeah.
Which you said previously is like a kind of wrap up for that series. So tell me a little bit about the legacy of Millennium.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it really. It is essentially the conclusion to the Millennium show. Like, Millennium got cancelled at season 3. I don't think, that wasn't Chris Carter's intention. That was a studio mandate. So I think there were places he would have gone with the show. It did kind of have an ending, did Millennium? If I recall correctly, I did watch them all. It ended with a 2-parter, and it did kind of have sort of a wrap up, but we hadn't actually reached the Millennium yet.
Yeah.
And obviously that's what the show was about. It was going to... If my memory serves me correctly, Carter's original intention was to make it a 5-season run, and it would end on the Millennium, and that would be the culmination of everything. So obviously he didn't get to do that, but we still had this hanging, for anyone who'd followed the show, you still were left hanging with this, okay, we've not got to the Millennium yet, the show's ended, are we never going to get to see that then? Or has Frank just stopped it with whatever he's done here in these last 2 episodes? So this episode is essentially a way to do that. Now, it might be unsatisfying to some who have followed Millennium, because it's just a 1-episode thing that's also really a Mulder and Scully thing as well. So it's, Frank Black doesn't necessarily take center stage. It's also might be dissatisfying to a lot of X-Files fans who didn't watch Millennium, so they're not really clued into who this Frank Black guy is and his daughter and that. So I can totally understand how a lot of people might find it just... okay, it's there. It's certainly not a bad episode, but I don't necessarily care for it. But I think if you're like me, you probably get a bit more out of it, because, as I say, I am someone who did follow Millennium. I watched the whole run. I enjoyed it for the most part, and I did just want that conclusion, and I feel like we get it here. Whether it's ultimately satisfying or not, at least we got it. So, if nothing else, there's that. But
much like yourself, I watched the 3 seasons of Millennium, although it's probably been about 20 odd years since I last saw it, which would be interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Frank Black back again, because I think that'll be good. So as always, thanks for listening or watching along. If you're on a podcast or YouTube, if you want to leave a review for us, we would really appreciate that. Allows other people to discover our show and our passion for the X-Files. And we will see you next week for Millennium.